Have you ever spent your whole life raising your children with love and care, only to feel like they don't respect you anymore? You call their name, but they don't answer. You try to give advice, and they roll their eyes. You send a message, and they leave you on read. It hurts, doesn't it? But here's the shocking truth. You might be the reason why your child is ignoring you. I know that sounds unfair. You've done nothing but love them, sacrifice for them, and put their needs above your own. So why would they treat you like this? Most parents believe that the more they do for their children, the more their children will appreciate them. But what if I told you that sometimes, the more you give, the less they respect you? Sounds crazy, right? But stay with me. In this video, I'm going to reveal something no one talks about, the hidden ways parents unknowingly push their children away. And more importantly, I'll show you 6 simple but powerful steps to regain their respect and rebuild your connection, without yelling, begging, or feeling like you have to walk on eggshells. By the end of this video, you'll not only understand why this is happening but also what to do, starting today, to turn things around. So if you've ever felt ignored, dismissed, or disrespected by your own child, this might be one of the most important videos you'll ever watch. Let's get into it. In the last few decades, parents have been told that the best way to raise good children is to give them everything they need, to always be there, and to never let them struggle. And yet, here we are. So many parents feel unappreciated, ignored, and even disrespected by the very children they poured their hearts into. So let's get real about something uncomfortable. Respect is not automatic. It's not something you get just because you worked hard, sacrificed, or did your best as a parent. I know that might sting a little. But if love alone guaranteed respect, then no loving parent would ever feel ignored. And yet, many do. Why? Because respect isn't just about love, it's about leadership. Now, I want you to think about something. If you had a boss who constantly reminded you how much they've done for you, would that make you respect them more? Probably not. Respect doesn't grow from guilt. It grows from healthy boundaries, clear expectations, and the way you carry yourself. But here's the mistake many parents make. They believe that if they give more, tolerate more, and sacrifice more, their child will naturally recognize that and be grateful. But in reality, overgiving without boundaries doesn't create respect, it creates entitlement. This is where things get tricky. Because I'm not saying you should stop loving your child. And I'm not saying their behavior is your fault. What I am saying is that if you don't understand the invisible rules that govern respect, you'll keep running into the same painful cycle over and over again. So if you've ever felt like your child takes you for granted, or if you've ever thought, why don't they appreciate everything I've done for them? You're not alone. And that brings us to the first crucial step to turning this around. Are you ready for it? Let's get into it. Let me ask you a question. When was the last time your child ignored you or responded with disrespect? Think about that moment. What were they doing? What were you doing? What exactly did you say, and how did they react? Now, here's the part most parents overlook. What happened next? Did you feel hurt and frustrated? Did you raise your voice? Did you remind them of all the sacrifices you've made? Did you try to guilt them into listening? If so, don't worry. You're not alone. This is exactly how most parents react. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Demanding respect never creates respect. Imagine if your boss constantly reminded you how much they've done for you, expecting you to be grateful and obedient. Would that make you respect them more, or resent them? Children, no matter their age, react the same way. When they sense that you're trying to force respect, they instinctively resist. But why? Because respect isn't something you can demand, it's something you command. And here's where most parents unknowingly go wrong. Many believe that if they keep giving more patience, more understanding, more sacrifices, then eventually, their child will wake up one day and start appreciating them. But it doesn't work that way. In reality, the more you overgive without boundaries, the less they value what you do. This is why some kids take their parents for granted. It's not because they're bad children. It's because they've never had to work for the relationship. They assume you'll always be there, no matter how they treat you. And here's something even harder to hear. Some parents teach their children to ignore them without realizing it. How? By constantly repeating themselves. By allowing disrespect to slide. By tolerating being dismissed over and over again. So the real question is, how do you change this dynamic? It all starts with a mindset shift, a new approach that stops the cycle of being ignored and starts rebuilding real respect. Let's get into it. Let me ask you a question. When was the last time your child ignored you or responded with disrespect? Think about that moment. What were they doing? What were you doing? What exactly did you say, and how did they react? Now, here's the part most parents overlook. What happened next? Did you feel hurt and frustrated? Did you raise your voice? Did you remind them of all the sacrifices you've made? Did you try to guilt them into listening? If so, don't worry. You're not alone. This is exactly how most parents react. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Demanding respect never creates respect. Imagine if your boss constantly reminded you how much they've done for you, expecting you to be grateful and obedient. Would that make you respect them more, or resent them? Children, no matter their age, react the same way. When they sense that you're trying to force respect, they instinctively resist. But why? Because respect isn't something you can demand, it's something you command. And here's where most parents unknowingly go wrong. Many believe that if they keep giving more patience, more understanding, more sacrifices, then eventually, their child will wake up one day and start appreciating them. But it doesn't work that way. In reality, the more you overgive without boundaries, the less they value what you do. This is why some kids take their parents for granted. It's not because they're bad children. It's because they've never had to work for the relationship. They assume you'll always be there, no matter how they treat you. And here's something even harder to hear. Some parents teach their children to ignore them without realizing it. How? By constantly repeating themselves. By allowing disrespect to slide. By tolerating being dismissed over and over again. So the real question is, how do you change this dynamic? It starts with a different approach, one that shifts the power back into your hands. Let's break it down. If you've ever thought, why doesn't my child listen to me, or why do they respect others more than me? You're not imagining things. There's a reason why they tune you out but pay full attention to a teacher, a boss, or even a stranger. And no, it's not because those people are more important, it's because they carry themselves differently. The uncomfortable truth is this: children don't listen to words. They respond to actions. Many parents unknowingly train their children to ignore them without realizing it. They repeat themselves over and over, hoping that this time, their child will finally listen. But the more you talk without follow-through, the more your words lose value. If your child learns that you'll remind them 5 times before actually taking action, why should they listen the first 4? If you say, "That's the last time I'm telling you," but then tell them again 2 minutes later, they don't take you seriously. Not because they don't care, but because they've learned that your words don't carry weight. And it doesn't stop there. Some parents accidentally reward bad behavior by chasing after their child's attention. If your child ignores you and you keep trying harder, raising your voice, repeating yourself, getting frustrated, you're teaching them that tuning you out gives them control. If they snap at you and you immediately try to smooth things over, they see that disrespect has no real consequences. The hardest mistake to recognize is the one that comes from love. Many parents, in an effort to keep a close relationship with their child, end up seeking their approval instead of their respect. They don't want to upset their child, so they avoid confrontation. They excuse bad behavior because they don't want to create distance. But here's the problem: when you prioritize being liked over being respected, your child will sense it. And the moment they realize you're afraid of losing their affection, the balance of power shifts. So how do you reset this dynamic and reclaim respect? Without yelling, without guilt, and without pushing them further away. That's exactly what we're about to cover next. At this point, you might be wondering, so what am I supposed to do? Just stop talking? Stop caring? Not at all. The key isn't to pull away, it's to shift the way you show up in your child's life. Right now, if your child ignores you or speaks disrespectfully, your first instinct might be to correct them immediately, to remind them how much you've done, or to demand better treatment. But what if I told you that the most powerful thing you can do is to stop reacting, and start leading? Think about someone in your life whom you truly respect. Maybe it's a mentor, a leader, or even a family member. What is it about them that makes you listen? I guarantee it's not because they chase after respect. It's because they carry themselves with quiet confidence. They don't beg for attention. They don't over-explain themselves. And most importantly, they don't tolerate disrespect, not through anger, but through firm, consistent action. That's the shift you need to make. Instead of constantly trying to correct your child's behavior with words, you need to establish a presence that naturally commands respect. This means setting clear expectations, not through long lectures, but through simple, direct statements. It means following through on consequences, not as punishment, but as a natural outcome of their actions. And most importantly, it means not over-explaining, not pleading, and not justifying yourself. Because here's the truth: the moment you start valuing your own time, energy, and self-respect, your child will, too. So what does this look like in real life? What should you actually say when your child ignores you? How do you set boundaries in a way that feels firm, but not aggressive? That's exactly what we're going to cover next. Let's get into it. Now that you understand the hidden mistakes that push your child away, it's time to start fixing them. And the first step is something that might feel unnatural at first, but it's absolutely necessary. You need to stop chasing their attention. This doesn't mean ignoring them or cutting off communication. It means breaking the habit of over-explaining, repeating yourself, or trying to force a response. Let's say you ask your child to do something, and they ignore you. Most parents' natural instinct is to ask again. And if that doesn't work, they ask louder. And if that still doesn't work, they start getting frustrated, maybe even lecturing about respect. But every time you do this, you're teaching them one thing: your words don't matter until you're upset. So here's what you do instead. The first time you ask, say it clearly and calmly, just once. If they ignore you, don't repeat yourself. Instead, follow through with a natural consequence. For example, if they don't respond when you tell them it's time for dinner, don't keep calling them. Simply serve dinner without them. If they come later and ask where their plate is, calmly say, "Dinner was served at 6:30. You're welcome to join us on time tomorrow." No anger. No arguments. Just a clear cause and effect response. This might sound simple, but it's powerful. The moment your child realizes that you're no longer chasing after them, they'll start paying attention. Why? Because when respect is required, not requested, they begin to understand that your words have weight. Now, you might be wondering, what if my child gets angry? What if they push back? That's completely normal. But how you handle that reaction will determine whether they start respecting you more, or continue testing your limits. Let's talk about exactly what to do when your child resists. The moment you stop chasing after your child's attention, something interesting happens. At first, they might not react at all. They might ignore you just like they always have, thinking you'll eventually give in. But when they realize you're no longer playing the same game, they'll start pushing back. This is where most parents slip up, because the moment their child gets upset, they second-guess themselves. They think, maybe I was too harsh. Maybe I should explain myself again. But here's the truth, pushback is a sign that your child is noticing the shift. And that's a good thing. Think about it. If they didn't care, they wouldn't react. The fact that they're resisting means they're starting to understand that something has changed. So what should you do when your child gets upset, rolls their eyes, or even accuses you of being unfair? Stay calm. Hold your ground. And do not explain yourself. If they say, "That's not fair," simply respond, "I understand you feel that way," and move on. If they say, "You're being mean," don't defend yourself. Just say, "I hear you," and keep your boundary in place. No long discussions. No arguments. No emotional reactions. The moment you start explaining, you're handing them control. Because now, instead of accepting the boundary, they've pulled you into a debate, and debates can be won. But respect isn't a debate. It's a standard. And when you calmly hold that standard, something powerful happens. Over time, your child starts to see you differently, not as someone they can manipulate, but as someone they must take seriously. Of course, this doesn't mean they'll change overnight. But with consistency, they will start adjusting. Now, the next question is, how do you rebuild the connection so that enforcing respect doesn't create distance? That's what we'll cover next. Now, some parents worry that enforcing respect will damage their relationship with their child. They think, if I stop being so accommodating, won't they pull away even more? But here's the reality, respect and connection are not opposites. In fact, they go hand in hand. Think about the people in your life whom you truly respect. Chances are, they're not the ones who let you do whatever you want. They're the ones who have clear standards but still make you feel valued. Your child needs the same thing. They need to feel both safe with you and accountable to you. And the best way to balance respect and connection is through positive interactions that have nothing to do with discipline. Let's be honest, if the only time you talk to your child is when there's a problem, they'll start associating your presence with negativity. So here's what you do. Create small moments of connection that aren't about rules, corrections, or lessons. This doesn't have to be complicated. It could be as simple as sitting with them while they watch their favorite show. Asking about their interests without judgment. Sharing a memory from your own childhood. No pressure. No hidden agenda. Just genuine interest. Why does this work? Because when respect is combined with warmth, it becomes something they want to give, not something they feel forced into. But there's one key rule. These moments of connection can't come at the cost of your boundaries. If your child only receives warmth when they behave well, they'll see it as a reward to earn instead of a foundation of your relationship. But if they see that you care for them even when you're firm, they'll start understanding something important. Respect isn't just about rules. It's about how we treat each other, even in the hard moments. Now, with this balance in place, how do you make sure respect becomes a long-term habit, not just a temporary change? That's what we'll cover next. By now, you've set clear boundaries, stopped chasing their attention, and started rebuilding connection without losing authority. But here's the real challenge. How do you make sure this isn't just a short-term fix? Because let's be honest, any child can shape up for a few days if they sense a change in you. But true respect isn't about quick behavior shifts, it's about a long-term transformation. The key? Consistency. If you enforce a boundary today but ignore it tomorrow, your child won't take it seriously. If you demand respect one moment but let things slide when you're too tired to deal with it, they'll learn that your authority is negotiable. So here's the golden rule. What you allow once, you allow forever. If you say no to something, stand by it. If you establish a rule, enforce it. If you let things slide, just this once, you're actually training them to test you again next time. Now, does this mean you have to be rigid? No. It means you need to be predictable. Your child should always know what to expect from you. When they know that your standards don't change based on your mood, they'll respect you even when they don't agree with you. And here's something even more important. Model the respect you want to receive. If you want your child to listen without interrupting, show them the same courtesy. If you want them to take responsibility, let them see you admit when you're wrong. Because in the end, respect isn't just about rules. It's about the kind of person you show them you are. So, now that you have the tools to regain their respect, how do you make sure your relationship continues to grow stronger over time? Let's get into that next. Now that you've reset the foundation for respect, the real work begins, keeping your relationship strong while maintaining those boundaries. Because here's what most parents don't realize. Respect isn't built in a single moment. It's built in everyday interactions. If you only focus on enforcing rules, but never nurture the relationship, your child will obey out of obligation, not out of real respect. But if you only focus on connection and let go of structure, they'll like you, but they won't take you seriously. The key is balance. One of the best ways to strengthen your relationship while keeping authority is to create positive traditions. Small, consistent rituals that remind your child that you are more than just the rule enforcer, you're also their supporter, their guide, and someone they can trust. This could be as simple as eating one meal together with no distractions. Going on a short walk once a week. Having a 5-minute nightly check-in where you just listen, without offering advice unless they ask for it. What matters isn't how big or fancy these moments are. What matters is that they are consistent. Because when your child knows they can count on you outside of discipline, it becomes easier for them to accept boundaries when you set them. And here's something even more important, let them have a voice. Respect goes both ways. If they feel like their opinions never matter, they will resist authority more. So when possible, involve them in decisions. Give them choices when appropriate. Show them that you hear them, even if you don't always agree. This doesn't mean you let them control the house. It means you create an environment where they feel valued. And when a child feels valued, they are far more likely to return that respect willingly. So, what's next? How do you ensure that everything you've learned so far actually sticks? Let's wrap this up with a final, powerful shift. Now, we've covered everything: how to stop chasing their attention, how to enforce boundaries without losing warmth, and how to strengthen your connection over time. But before we wrap this up, there's one final truth that might shock you. Respect isn't about them. It's about you. You see, most parents spend years trying to get their child to change, waiting for them to mature, to realize their mistakes, to finally show appreciation. But here's the real twist: your child's respect for you will never be higher than your respect for yourself. If you constantly put your needs last, if you tolerate being ignored, if you excuse disrespect just to keep the peace, your child learns that you don't see yourself as worthy of respect. And if you don't, why should they? This is why everything we've talked about isn't just about parenting, it's about how you carry yourself in every aspect of life. Think about it. Who are the people that naturally command respect? They're not the ones who yell, beg, or demand attention. They're the ones who move with quiet confidence, who set expectations and uphold them without needing validation. That's the kind of presence your child needs from you. Not someone who pleads for their respect, but someone who expects it, because they respect themselves first. So, the real challenge isn't just about getting your child to listen. It's about asking yourself, am I showing up as someone worthy of respect, not just as a parent, but as a person? Because when you make that shift, when you start holding yourself to the same standards you want from them, everything changes. Your child will feel it. They will notice it. And over time, they will start mirroring it. So, don't wait for them to change first. Change how you show up, and their respect will follow. Now, let me ask you, what was the biggest realization you had in this video? Drop a comment below, and let's see now that you see the real reason behind your child's behavior and the mindset shift that changes everything. The next step is simple: take action. Because let's be honest, most people will watch this, agree with it, and then go right back to their old habits. They'll keep repeating themselves, keep hoping their child will change first, and keep feeling frustrated when nothing improves. But you're not here just to understand the problem, you're here to fix it. So, let's make this real. I want you to start with one small change today. Just one. Maybe it's refusing to repeat yourself when your child ignores you. Maybe it's staying calm when they push back instead of explaining yourself. Maybe it's setting a boundary and actually following through, without guilt, without second-guessing. Whatever it is, commit to it. Because the truth is, nothing changes until you change. And if you're wondering, will this really work for my child? Here's my challenge to you: try it. Give it time. Be consistent. And watch how the dynamic in your home shifts. Now, I'd love to hear from you. What's the one thing from this video that hit you the hardest? Drop a comment below and let me know. Because the more we talk about these things, the more we can break the cycle of frustration and create real, lasting respect in our families. And if this message resonated with you, do me a favor, hit the like button, share this with someone who needs it, and subscribe for more real talk about parenting and relationships. Because this isn't just about getting your child to listen. It's about building a family dynamic that's based on mutual respect, trust, and understanding. And that starts with you. I'll see you in the next one. Alk about it.